Hello, welcome to Virtual Concert Hall's live music channel. My name is Chris Au, and it's my pleasure to introduce the co-founder of Virtual Concert Halls, Dr. Anna Ouspenskaya.
Chris, thank you very much, and welcome everyone to the show, which I love dearly. It's a great pleasure to be diving into Beethoven and listening to Lawrence Rapchak and being part of it.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining us, everybody. And this is part 6 of the documentary of Beethoven's Symphony No. 1, written and narrated by Lawrence Rapchak, created by New Media Productions worldwide and Virtual Concert Halls, as well as being produced by the Architects of Music.
That's a lot of collaboration. And I have a key word. It's a lot of people with different paths, different ideas, different views, who could be just bumping heads at each other. But there's something which is very cohesive about everyone participating in those projects. And that's a passion, a desire. That's the drive to connect musicians and audiences in real time, musical performances, and live programs from around the globe.
It's just, I can barely keep up with this. And it's amazing, all these jarring, irregular elements. Melody, harmony, rhythm, the breakneck speed at which they all happen. They're disruptive, they're disorienting, almost chaotic. Yet Beethoven organizes it all with supreme skill and architectural logic. This is just a totally new way of writing music, which requires a new way of listening. It was impossible in 1800 for the human ear to follow and make sense of this lightning-quick, volatile music. Here it is again. Haydn had written some very fast minuets in his string quartets, but nothing like this. And as an actual minuet to be danced, you'd have a major collapse on the palace ballroom floor, I think. I hate when that happens. But the architecture of this so-called minuet is very proper. There's the standard central trio section in which the music suddenly stabilizes and the harmony becomes almost static. I think any audience could follow that. But you'll notice that each of these simple phrases is answered by the violins, lightly, darting about between the wind chords. And you heard that little hitch in the rhythm with the violins. A type of rhythmic syncopation, which we'll deal with in the finale. But we do stay comfortably in C major for this trio, including a big build-up on that same major triad and rhythm, with the instruments gradually adding in like a very quick Mannheim crescendo, which we discussed in Mozart. And this leads to a literal repeat of this crazy minuet proper, as was the custom. So why did Beethoven call this a minuet when he was actually rocking the musical world with the first ever symphonic scherzo? No one knows. It's just one of those things. In any case, here is the entire third movement, the world's fastest minuet, and I'll call it out as we go. We start in C major and rise to G major. Now, new key, new rhythm, new dynamics. All very disorienting in 1800. Now moving to D flat major. And for a moment, it's very sweet. Now it begins to rise chromatically, very mysterioso. And it's back in C major. And here's those Neapolitan harmonies. Hang on. Where's the downbeat here? In the violins. And now we'll repeat. We move into D flat major again. Now it's rising. An astounding harmonic progression here. Back to C major. And it's extended now. Now those Neapolitan harmonies. Where's the downbeat in the violins? Oh, who cares? Just enjoy it. Now the trio, the woodwinds, and the whirlwind violins. At least there's some stability here, huh? Harmony, phrases. Here's that little hitch in the violins. It repeats. Violins, woodwinds, violins. Here it is again. Now on the dominant chord in the violins, we sort of fragment. The violins take over, and here's that quick Mannheim crescendo. We repeat. Begin again. Here's that big crescendo into C major. And the rhythm again. Now we repeat the scherzo from the top.
Fantastic.
This movement is a riot.
It really is. It really is. And I think Larry really enjoys it. I think one of my favorite things in music he does. And he just says, oh, who cares? Just enjoy it. And there's the way that he adds so much flair to it, which I really, really love. I just want to say that the way he narrated that sketch just now, the way he talked behind the scenes, that's why I fell in love with music. I remember some of these amazing teachers I've studied with or heard in master classes, and they have the ability to play and also dictate, narrate as they're going. And I wish there was more of that. I think it's just it tells you the story as it's happening. It's like somebody who's kind of whispering in your ear as a movie's going, telling you the little details that you might have not noticed, or Fleischer often talks about what the role of us as musicians, which isn't to make it our own. This is Beethoven's. It's Beethoven. But we are the tour guide. We're like the person who guides the audience going up the mountain or the scenery, whatever, and we just point out the little amazing things that is already there. It's already been created. It's just we're just the vessel to help guide people through. And I think this is the way to do it. I think this is such a supremely efficient way to get people to understand what's happening in the music, to really comprehend narratively and with a storytelling, not too complicated, and doesn't stop you from listening to what you're listening to, but it just guides you through it. I think it's genius.
Yeah. I love that part of Larry's narration too, where he says, "Okay, and let's listen to the movement, and I'll call it out." And
and he needs to do a whole series of that, whatever it is. Just this, maybe a little explanation in the beginning, and just like, okay, well, let's listen to it. I'll tell you what happens as it goes. And we might pause once or twice just to say, "Hey, did you hear that? That was really cool," and then keep going. I remember, I think there's listening parties. I think that's what really helps musicians understand what's going on. And I really wish that would happen more. I think back in the day, perhaps, where you have a record or LP and you listen to it and you just, you'll gather around as a group to listen to one thing. We don't do that anymore. Music is such a private listening experience.
And even maybe we need to start doing more of it. And with the virtual concert halls platform and all the tools we gathered, it's quite possible to start doing this because, especially, it's being led on that journey like by someone like Larry Rapchak.
Yeah.
That's a really enjoyable experience. It's almost like, okay, we get a racing car and we get a real professional race driver and hop in hang on to that car.
Yeah, and we get to watch how he drives it, or what he does there. Like that turn there, see that's a really tricky one. Don't go there. You're gonna go this way. This racing line is way better. Or in any analogy.
And by the way, there's a deer there. Did you see it?
Yes. Exactly. Don't run into that one. You have a very expensive view at the end. But I think that's it. I think that's what is going to really revolutionize the way we understand and the audience understands music.
Yeah, absolutely. Because there is a story, and that story can be mysterious unless you unveil that smoke screen or just open it up, and then it becomes not mysterious but very fun story. And I mean, Larry is calling it out in simple terms, like here's the violins, but at the same time, you hear what is happening in that part. And that really is a huge fuel for imagination.
It's way better than someone pointing at the score and saying, this is the Mannheim crescendo. When you experience the Mannheim crescendo, you're not going to forget that it's a Mannheim crescendo. It's always going to be associated. But if I point it out, show you how he writes it, it's not quite the same. So we need a series of Larry Rapchak just doing this as the music is going. And it takes a lot of skill because you always have to anticipate what's going on.
Yeah, like a driver, you need to anticipate those turns and all of that. And he is a fabulous writer of it. He's a composer himself. He is a conductor and he's a narrator. And he presented over 400 pre-concert lectures for none other but the Chicago Symphony. It's one of the world best symphonies with huge repertoire and a great reach out. So his experience in preparation to those lectures, it takes a lot of analysis and depth to prepare something which flows like his narration, at the same time informs like his narration does, at the same time engages with all the subtle humor. It's incredible.
Yeah. I want to bring in a quote of his, basically, where he calls this scherzo, I shouldn't say scherzo because it wasn't written as a scherzo, but a minuet and trio as an organization of chaos with supreme intellect and logic. So what he's mentioning there is basically a creation of our world. What our world is actually very chaotic, whether it's people, whether it's nature, whether it is our interaction with nature and the universe and so many things we don't understand, whether it's from physics to geology, and yet there's an organization to it. And yet it is also not just organized in a random way, it's organized in a supreme intellect and logic. And I think that's really helps to organize what composers do, but great composers do so well.
Yeah, and that points back to one of the lectures which we observed in the previous programs, where Lawrence was talking about the width and breadth of Beethoven's interests. And this is basically dismantling bias about many composers, Beethoven and others, that to be an excellent composer, one needs to just keep writing and writing and writing.
Right.
There's so much more goes into that, and to have that ability to create music of that grand scope and so much variety. Of course, the person needs to have the baggage of interests, very well developed interests into science, and Beethoven was interested in science and in philosophies and in religions, in geography, in architecture, in just about anything and everything in there, in math. And he didn't have those interests as passing interests. He really was on top of the most advanced information he could gather at the time.
Yeah, and I really think this is quite an important part of a musician's journey. And I'm not speaking for everyone, but I think there's a tendency within the arts world to want to destroy or get away, like, do away with the past, to look at tradition and to, you know, look down on it and say, "Nah, we don't need this," or to conversely look in the present and ignore what's happening with technology, what's happening within our world, within the pain of people that are suffering, or to not know what else is going on within the science world, within the world of mathematics and physics, as well as in politics and in our social economic environment. And I think the way that I think is most inspiring is to look at people like Beethoven, Haydn, who was at Schumann, who was very much a part of the world, who respected culture and the traditions. And you look at people like Mendelssohn, who dug up scores of Bach and re-examined and just revolutionized our understanding of Bach for the rest of, eternity, basically. And that's was really crucial. The fact that we need the past to help educate, and then people in the past are not as stupid or ignorant as we think they are. That there's a lot of this idea that, oh, people in the past, they don't know anything. We have modern science and modern technology now, so who cares about what they had to say or what they had to write? And I think it's a danger, I think, within artistics and creatives to do away with that, because it is through that's how the great stuff got written. And,
Absolutely.
Obviously Beethoven looked at the minuet and said, I can do better. I can try something different. But he still learned as much as he could from the way minuets were written or symphonic written. And another quote is, there's a lot of chaos happening, but it's still within the logic and the structure of the minuet and trio. He doesn't dismiss the structure of the logic of it. He understands why it works, that you're expecting A, B, A. Within the A, you're expecting so-and-so little things. And within the B is something very different, but still has some kind of character of the A section. But within this logic and structure, there is this chaos that we're completely unaware of what's going to happen next. And I think that's the brilliance of making sure we respect the past and still innovate.
Absolutely. And I found these are two different sides of the same coin. Lack of respect for the past, or I would say for the people of the past and their creations. Strangely enough, oftentimes comes with a lack of attention and lack of respect for the present and innovation going into the future. So, there's a difference between respect and learning from the past and worshipping the past and hoping and wishing for the present to turn into the past. There's a big difference between those two. But the truth of the matter is, you and I are not any smarter than Beethoven was, and he lived the entire 200 years before, and he didn't have a computer. So how could he possibly
look at the way
match?
J.S. Bach's able to write, 7-part fugues, and you're telling me that I'm smarter?
Just because I was born later on the timeline, which, by the way, no one has ever proven exists.
Yeah.
We invented it just to keep up with our appointments to the doctor and the vet, so and the class schedule.
Yeah, absolutely.
But really, yeah, and the same goes for the innovation in the fields which are maybe not immediately related to the music, like technology. Well, what does it have to do with composing? A lot, if you dig a little past the surface. Learning from the best of the past, the best people from the past, we will learn that their interests reached far beyond just doing their thing or focusing on one thing. They were focused on one big thing, which is the entire life.
Yeah. So when you're introducing, students or anybody to music, it's difficult because you have so much of the history. Let's say somebody is not familiar with classical music, and you say, okay, well, let's talk about it. But there's Baroque and Renaissance. There's early classical, and then there's Beethoven classical, and then there's Schubert, quote unquote, classical. And then you have the Romantic. You have the symphonies of Mendelssohn, Schumann, which is sort of earlier Romantic. And then you have Brahms symphonies, and then you have the later Romantics. And then you have the French, and then you have the Spanish, and then you have all these people, and then the Russian symphonies and their works. And so it's not it's not immediately obvious what you start them. And of course, that's not even the end of story. Then there's the jazz influences. Then there's modern, the degradation of tonality, and so what happened out of the second Viennese school, and now a modern era of Philip Glass, Steve Reich, John Adams, John Criano, and all these explorations of that too.
And all the ethnic classics. You throw those in the mix, and it becomes organized chaos.
Exactly. And it's like, how do you share with students what classical music is? And also, even if people want to destroy the past, you have to ask them, well, which part?
That's right.
Shall we destroy all the old French music? And we mention French music now as sort of like, oh, it's Debussy, Ravel, and all that. But there's Couperin, there's Rameau. There's all those in between, which are lesser known, perhaps, but still relevant. I don't know the answer.
Start with something very simple. Which drives, in my opinion, the very creation of music. Music is a language, and we want to say something in music because it just speaks better with that medium.
Yeah.
Okay? And when people talk to us, sometimes we like what they say, and we like how they say it, and sometimes we don't. Let's apply that to music and just say the core of all of it. There's good music, which you like, and there's other music which you don't like. Start with that, and don't dismiss your intuitive gut feeling. Well, I really like this music, and someone says, well, that's not very good music. Well, if someone says that, ask them, what's better? What do you think is better? And just explore. You're right, there's an endless ocean of what people now say content out there of music from around the world, classical in terms of Western classics and Eastern classics and classics from different periods. Now, but what's the red line thread? If it gives joy, if it challenges us emotionally and intellectually, and if it engages us, that's good music.
Yeah, and I totally agree. I think now that I'm thinking about it, Western classical music seems to, if you categorize it in terms of the timeline, you have a lot. It's very, very difficult to navigate. But if you categorize it according to structures and instrumentation, then it's not too many of this sonata form, which has been used for so many, there's the symphonic sonata-ish form, there's the minuet and trio, the ABA, there's fugues and theme and variations, and then just sort of prelude one works, that's really a lot smaller than going through the whole age and discovering what it is. And with that structures, then you can say, okay, well, what falls within those structures and how do we appreciate them? And it sort of becomes a little simpler to understand. But it is still a big world out there.
It's a huge ocean, and you're right. That's a $1 million question: curation, curation of music or literature or any content, and it's a short question which doesn't have a short answer. And the answer also has to be stretched throughout the time. And as a person, let's call a music consumers, experience with it grows and expands. It's a ever-evolving process because humanity had put a lot of effort into music, into music instruments, into communicating through music, which needs to be respected. Back to your topic of respecting the past. If you give the respect that there's a reason why there's so much music been created in the human history. And what is that reason? Then you start the journey into exploring, let's say, Western classics with an open mind to find something, some golden nuggets for your own life, for your own creativity. That's the attitude which makes it worthwhile doing.
Well, it brings back to the sort of the idea of this, what really music is an organization of sonic chaos, and what you get is that. And I think that's a wonderful way to end our show, understanding that this is what Beethoven does extraordinarily well, and we are just in awe in what he has to offer. And I want to give a big thanks to our team, who again is organizing chaos by making all this music visually appealing to us, to make it all, and with Larry, of course, to make it so much more understandable. So I want to make sure we thank our team at Virtual Concert Halls, people who write scripts and direct shows, like wonderful James Welch behind the scenes, and who put video editing and make this narration by Larry Rapchak so engaging. So thanks to New Media Productions, Archives of Music, New Media Productions, Virtual Concert Halls, and of course, Larry Rapchak. And to you too, Dr. Anna, thank you for hosting this and being the brains behind making these kind of projects happen.
And thank you, Chris, very much for hosting these programs and many other programs. It's always fabulous to watch you and be part of the conversation with you. You're one of those incredible and rare people who ask just the most thought-provoking questions. That's a tremendous gift.
Well, you provide the most thought-provoking solutions and answers to these million-dollar questions. So we need both of us, both sides of the same coin, as we mentioned before.
Yes, and I want to offer everyone to check out other programs which we produce, music and musicians around the globe, where we showcase musicians and various professionals of our field from different countries. And you bet we ask them a lot of questions, and some of them we even call hard questions, right, Chris?
Yeah, difficult, tricky questions,
Yeah, because we want to know. And I'm sure you also want to know if you're watching these programs. And we also have a lot of opportunities for musicians to excel in their art and in their career and in their relationships with their audience. And with that, we're going to sign off for today. And I'm so looking forward for more programs with you, Chris. Thank you, James Welch, for being our director.
Yes, thank you so much. We'll see you next time for part 7 of our Beethoven First documentary series.
Bye now.
No matter where you are or who you are, music connects us all. We started with a dream, but now we are paving the future. Welcome to the Sound Expressiva Global Competition. Fully virtual, yet bringing musicians closer together than ever before, now on a global scale. True live, inclusivity, diversity, connection, community, an extraordinary array of judges. Get noticed by companies all over the world. Prizes, scholarships, performance opportunities. Apply to be a part of the most exciting congregation of artists like nothing you've ever seen before. We guarantee quality and leave no musician behind. We can't wait to hear you on the virtual stage.